Yeah, he's trying to woo not just this coaching staff, but also a fan base, and he wants to take the ring as being a starter. He wasn't really given the opportunity to be called or named a starter going into this season. We all know that he's going to be the starter, but I mean, this young man has done everything possible to try to be that type of person on this team. He's gained the respect of his peers around him. He's gained the respect of the city. Now he needs to go out and gain the respect of Howie Roseman and the guys that are in the key positions of really altering his fate. I mean, it's tough on him, man. He's done everything you've asked him to do. He's got pulled from a game at the end of the year in which he thought that he could have won it if he had allowed him to keep playing. I mean, he's been through a lot, but it's something that he's used to. I mean, he's used to his hands and feet being put to the fire. He's used to this because it happened when he was at, Alabama. He left there, went and proved himself at Oklahoma. Came to the Eagles and proved himself as a player, and he didn't get cut. Even though the franchise quarterback there already, he's used to have his hands and feet in the fire. So.
First day of actual camp is upon us. Prince 365. Jody McDonald along with Jeff Kerr filling in for Johnny Mack today. He's already made his way down to Eagles practice. Our first guest is going to go there as well, but not till after he finishes up with us. You watch him every day here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel with his buddies Harry and Eitan in the middle. He's leading off with us today. Former Eagles standout offensive lineman Barrett Brooks jumps aboard. Barrett, I know it was a couple of years ago, but what's it like first day of practice? What do you remember about whether it was your first year or any other subsequent years? What's the first day of practice like for you?
It was actually fun, man. This is where the players come in. They've worked all summer, gotten in shape. They're ready to go out there and play. They're ready to go out there and hit. And, today's anticipation of going out and, you're working out not just in front of, your peers, the players on the team, but you're introducing yourself to these coaches. They're seeing you for the first time really in their system. And this will be the first time you're going full speed in this system. So, I mean, as a player, you're ready, you're happy, you're auditioning for the coaches. And you're also understanding that, hey, this is the first step in trying to go get the hardware, trying to go get the ring. This is where it all starts.
Barrett, on day one, you had to start out with a rookie head coach in Ray Rhodes. What were you trying to do as a player, as a young player in the league? Pretty much, hey, like, you got to impress them? Like, what was your mentality going into that first practice?
It was the anticipation of going out and playing and being in an NFL team. I was in awe at first, because I'm looking over. I'm in the huddle with Randall Cunningham. I'm looking over. I got greats like, Riley McKenzie, one of the original Hogs. I got Guy McIntyre yelling at me. I mean, it was just overwhelming at first, man. It was just unbelievable experience. And I look over, I see William Fuller practicing. I'm about to go against William Fuller, one of the best defensive ends, to play the game. It was just one of those things that I just loved the whole atmosphere of it until I got halfway through it and I figured out, I'm not in as good a shape as I thought I was. But it's just a physical practice. The head coach knew the direction he wanted to go in. He wanted a physical team, so he practiced us. He practiced us like that. He made us run and work out really, really hard, understanding he had to weed a couple guys away from the old losing regime and set the tone as far as him being the head coach. So that's what it was, man. It was, eyes wide open, but also understanding he had to weed some guys out, weed out the bad seeds in order for him to take control of the team, because he had to get his way of doing things focused right then and there the first week.
Barrett, let me ask you about the offensive lineman room for this team this year. Kind of a different dynamic than we're used to seeing. You have guys like Nate Herbig and Matt Pryor and Jack Driscoll who had a chance to play last year because there were so many injuries on the offensive line. So even though they were young guys, they did get a chance to show their wares a little bit. This year, if the Eagles stay healthy, they all know they're in backup roles. You get Lane back, you get Brooks back. You're going to have a competition at the left tackle, but both seem physically capable and ready to go. tension in that room because guys who got a chance to play know, well, I basically have to sit here and root for somebody to get hurt again. Otherwise, I'm not going to play. Is it at one big happy family and they all pull together? Nick Sirianni keeps emphasizing competition, so you're going to go out on a day in, day out basis and try and show your best. How does that dynamic work in that room, specifically this year with the group that they have?
Well, you have a lot of guys that played a lot last year and understanding that these guys, want to play more. But this time, instead of going out and playing for a position on this, out there in the starting five, they're actually playing for a position on the team. It's going to be more competitive than it was last year. These veteran players understand that they're the, tail enders of their career. So they're going to make sure that they show that, they're healthy, number one. And number two, they got to show that they're ready to go every single play. So they're going to get the major part of the reps simply because they're the starters. But these young guys also understand that, all right, I could be thrown in at any time. I got to be ready. But, it's going to be tough, sitting back and watching these guys play, especially when you got your first couple reps in the NFL last year and you played a significant role last year. Now your role is diminished, but you have to be ready, and they understand that.
Barrett, you've been in your fair share of training camp competitions over the years. When Jordan Mailata and Andre Dillard go to war today, did you always worry about what the other guy was doing in practice, or were you just focused on yourself?
I tried to focus on myself because, I had to take care of, the intangibles of what I was as a football player. I had to make sure I was in shape, had to make sure I came in and I knew that playbook, and I had to make sure that they had to say my name for, nothing more than, all right, it's time for you to take your reps. I controlled how my demeanor was when I went to the line of scrimmage. I controlled how hard I practiced. And that's what that's the role I took. I didn't really care about what they were doing and, how the guy was going against, what he was doing, because at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. I just got to make sure I shine in that coach's light so he sees me. I do more than what the other guy is doing. And that's the way I approached it. I made sure that, I'm playing at an optimal level because I wasn't just playing for myself. I'm playing for my family. And that's a dynamic that, a lot of fans don't understand. You're not just playing for yourself and playing time for yourself, but you're playing to, you're playing to feed your family. You're playing to put food on the table. So you got to make sure that you got to go above and beyond and do the little things to make sure that you highlight yourself in any way you can.
But I like what you said about, there'll be competition in the offensive lineman room. Maybe not for starting reps, but who's going to actually make this team.
Yes.
So the competition is there, and I like that. Let me ask you about competition in another position. I saw your report on NBC Sports Philly this morning that you are ready to check out some Jalen Hurts. Yes, Joe Flacco's here. Yes, Nick Mullins is here. Jalen Hurts is going to be the starting quarterback. You know it. I know it. Jalen knows it. Nick Sirianni knows it. Just Nick Sirianni won't confirm it. But he's going to be the starting quarterback when the year gets underway if he's healthy. But he's in competition on a day-in, day-out basis with someone who is not here, either a potential high first-round draft pick next year or Deshaun Watson if the Eagles are going to jump in to the potential trade market there. How does Jalen deal with that competition? It's I would guess that it would be easier if you're going to look across the room, look across the line and see who you're competing against. But he's competing against this kind of nebulous third party who isn't even in the Eagles locker room. How tough is that going to be on Hurts?
Yeah, he's trying to woo not just this coaching staff, but also a fan base. And, he wants to take the reins as being a starter. He wasn't really given the opportunity to be called or named a starter going into this season. We all know that he's going to be the starter. But, this young man has done everything possible to try to be that, that type of person on this team. He's gained the respect of his peers around him. He's gained the respect of the city. Now he needs to go out and gain the respect of, Howie Roseman and the guys that are, in the key positions of really altering his fate. It's tough on him, man. He's done everything you've asked him to do. He's got pulled from a game at the end of the year in which he thought that he could have won it if he had allowed him to keep playing. He's been through a lot, but it's something that he's used to. He's used to his hands and feet being put to the fire. He's used to this because it happened when he was at, Alabama. He left there, went and proved himself at Oklahoma, came to the Eagles and proved himself as a player. And he didn't get cut, even though the franchise quarterback there already. He's used to, have his hands and feet in the fire. So to him, it's just another day at the office. He's going to be ready to play. He's going to be ready to do everything he can to make sure that he is the best player out there at that position. Now, it's going to be some healthy competition, not just from guys on the team. Like you said, the naysayers are saying, all right, I'd rather have, somebody else at the ring, and build this, team through, a younger guy that, they're going to make in the draft next year, or maybe, a Deshaun Watson type of player. But, like I said, he's been tested. He's definitely been tested. Iron sharpens iron. He's been tested. His iron has been sharpened a lot. So he'll be ready. He's going to be ready to compete, man. I can't wait, man. I want to see how his, progression goes as far as, his footwork, just the little things, and his pre-snap diagnosis of the defense. Those are all things I'll be looking for in practice today.
Now, Barrett, there's a guy I think we're kind of forgetting about that's going to play a vital role in this offense this year, because we're focusing on another guy in that offense, Devonta Smith. But Jalen Reagor was the first-round pick last year. What are you looking to see out of him today?
I want to see that explosiveness. I want to see, why I thought, when he was in the Big 12 2 years ago, why he was one of the most explosive guys, not just in the Big 12, but in all college football. He was a player at TCU. He could do everything great. He was a, running back after the catch, punt returns. He could do a lot of things. He was a very athletic, very quick guy. I didn't see as much as that last year. I had high expectations for him, even though we didn't get the guy that we thought we should have gotten in the draft. I thought that he was definitely still a leg up. Jalen Reagor was a beast in the Big 12, and he didn't even have a quarterback in which he can get the ball to him a lot of the times, during his tenure in college. And he was still able to put up big numbers, especially big numbers in a specialist game when he was returning. So he has all the athletic talent in the world. He has all the versatility in the world. He can run tunnel screens, reverses. He can run jet sweeps. He can do all those things. But can he take it and bring it to another level? I know head coach Nick Sirianni is going to put this kid in a lot of position for him to be successful. Will he take the reins and go out there and be that guy? I think he will, but I want to see the explosiveness that I saw when he was in college applied to the NFL level.
Yeah, it's kind of going to be on him. And yes, he was pretty dominant in the Big 12, but the Big 12 is coming apart at the seams. But I digress. That's a whole other story. Well, let's save that for another day. The wide receiver position to me is one of the most intriguing ones with the Eagles this year, because you have back-to-back first-round draft picks, a Travis Fulgham who came out of nowhere and for a month was one of the best wide receivers in the National Football League, but then also kind of disappeared again. So you got no idea what you're going to get out of him. And then my favorite guy, which is Greg Ward. And everybody always discounts Greg Ward, and Greg Ward is limited, and Greg Ward doesn't have that explosiveness, and Greg Ward isn't a big play player, but he leads the Eagles in receptions, which is kind of an important facet, if you ask me. I get it that he is never going to be the number one receiver in the league. He's not going to be a 13-touchdown guy, but this guy does help you move the chains. Is Greg Ward going to get a fair shake this year from the Eagles, do you think?
I think he's going to give it even more fair shake than J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. I think he's proven himself enough to be a player in this league. And the coaching staff, they'll see that. Because he has an interesting dynamic of being a quarterback and understanding, route running at a level in which a lot of receivers don't know, because he understands what the quarterback is looking for in the route, where he needs to be in the route, and how he can take advantage of what he's doing while he's out there. So that dynamic, has really helped Greg Ward Jr. become a really good player, man. I just think, it's going to be hard for J-Jaw and himself, man, to get past this young talent. I mean, they have straight speed now. We're talking about a team that has speed now at the wide receiver position. It wasn't like this, for almost, 20 years, as far as having the athletes that they have in that stable right now. I mean, they literally have guys that can run, 4-3 guys, Quez Watkins showed, on a little simple screen that he can get out the gate. You got Hightower, Hightower's, another 4-3, 4-4 guy. Jalen Reagor, Devonta Smith, they have legitimate speed at that position. So Greg Ward, his speed was kind of questioned. He still has the elusiveness, the understanding of where he's supposed to be at in the offense. But it's going to be tough for both of those guys to really make some hay as far as getting ahead of those guys that are, kind of fast in this system.
I think one of the storylines from the first day of training camp is obviously Zach Ertz. And will he or won't he be on this team week 1? What do you expect Zach Ertz to say after practice today?
I expect him to be the consummate pro. He's going to be a professional. He's going to make sure that, he says all the right things. He's betting on himself right now. They didn't cut him. They didn't cut him because they wanted more than what people were trying to give to him. I know that he's a salary cap guy. I understand how much he's going to apply towards the cap. But I'll tell you what, he's going to have a huge chip on his shoulder. So because of that, he's going to go out there and play. He didn't forget how to catch. He didn't forget how to play an impact role on a team. He just didn't get any help last year from the quarterback. Carson was really that bad. He not only affected, himself, but he also affected a lot of guys on this team as far as production. And, Zach Ertz was that production casualty. Of course, he wanted to get a new contract and go forward with the Eagles and retire Eagle. But, hey, at this point, he's got to bet on himself. He's got to go out there and make sure that he's in the best shape of his life, that he's ready to go out there and compete and be a valued asset in that offense. He can still do those type of things. He didn't forget how to play. It's just if he goes out there and apply himself like he did in the past and get that cohesiveness with Ertz that he had with Carson, I believe he could be a big part of this offense. 12 personnel was always a big part of what they did in the offense. Well, maybe now they may go to 11 personnel more so now because they have the receivers to run 11 personnel, which is 1 running back, 1 tight end, and then 3 receivers. They may go with a lot more 3 receivers in the offense. Then it's going to be a problem. Who do you put in there, Goddard or Ertz? So, it's a great problem to have as a coaching staff because you have great players that can go out there and produce for you. But, hey, you might let some players go that should be on this team simply because, there's so much talent now at the receiving positions at tight end, running back, and wide receiver.
I'm glad to hear you say that you think Zach is going to be a pro's pro about his contract situation. I'm not as sure as you are because I don't think he really wants to be here.
No, he doesn't.
They've coined this new phrase in the NFL called hold in. There used to be holdouts. Now with the fact that you can't get refunded your fines, there's hold-ins. Guys show up at camp and say, yeah, I'm here for one reason only, so I don't get fined. I hope he handles it as professionally as you suggest he is. That would be very beneficial to Nick Sirianni as a first-year coach.
He's going to be making a lot of money, See, he's going to be making more money right now than he would have on an open market. So, nobody's going to pay him, $7-8 million like the Eagles going to pay him to stay here. So he's pretty happy about that he got a salary still.
All right, good line of logic. All right, here's the next relationship question I want to ask you as a former player. As an offensive lineman in the league, you worked with the running backs. Now, the running backs could either make you look real good if they read your block correctly, cut the right way, turn it upfield. Hey, that's a great play. Good job by the offensive lineman and the running back. Or if they misread your block or go the wrong way, that makes you look real bad when they're knocked down for 3-yard losses. Same thing on passing plays. If they're part of the protection scheme, if they don't get their job done and the left side of the line gives up the sack, well, even guilty by association, it's going to fall on you. Your coach is going to go, why didn't you hold them out even further, even if it's the back who didn't get the job done? So you're intrinsically tied to the running backs. Miles Sanders this year, coming from last year, some big plays, home run hitter, but also made some mistakes in picking up blocks out of the backfield, in catching the ball. He was kind of a hit or miss guy this past year. How much of the relationship between the offensive line and the running back can affect the offense in the way Miles Sanders either, again, has an up and down season or has an all-around great season for the Eagles?
Well, he's going to have a great season for this Eagles team. I think the offense is going to run through Miles Sanders. If you look at what they did at the Colts last year, excuse me, they really started the run game, and that really helped their offense and Phillip Rivers, get the ball down the field a lot more because you had to make sure that you check the run before, pass as a defender. So, it could be an integral part of this offense because I think, Coach Nick Sirianni wants to run the ball a little more. It's kind of the same thing, when they had, a system where you had, two good running backs. That's the reason, one of, big reasons why they were Super Bowl champion. They were able to run the ball with a Garrett Blunt. He established the run, which allowed them to push the ball down the field, allowed them now to just not be a one-facet team that's just going to throw the ball. If you can have balance in your offense, keep the defense off their toes, then, it just leads to, a better cohesiveness in the run game and the passing game, because you could do both ways, because with 12 personnel, one running back, two tight ends, it could be a passing offense with that personnel package, because you do have the threat of the run with Miles Sanders being in the game. And, you got a lot of guys in this, in that running back locker room, they can tote the rock. You got just Miles Sanders, but hey, Boston Scott wants to make sure he's on this squad, because there's a lot of healthy competition at that position. Look at Kerryon Johnson from the Detroit Lions. They have a lot, riding with him, going into this season also. They just drafted a rookie, from Memphis, so there's some big shoes to fill. I Kenneth Gainwell, he's supposed to be this, all-inclusive back. He can do everything. He's not just a running back. He's a, receiver. He can line up in the slot. There's going to be some great players out there that, might get cut from this Eagles team simply because there's just not enough balls to hand out when it comes to, giving them an opportunity to run the rock. That's a good problem to have. But at the end of the day, these young guys got to step it up. Even Miles Sanders has to step it up. He has to show that he's the lead back in this room. There's some lead backs in that room that can play pretty well. So, Jordan Howard's still there. Like we mentioned, Kerryon Johnson. Guys want to get on the field, and there's not enough footballs, to disperse all the, with all the talent that they have. So it's great having healthy competition going into the season, but there's going to be some good players who are going to be cut from that running back room.
Barrett, watching 3 years of Colts games just to get a grasp of what Nick Sirianni likes to do, and I'm glad you mentioned 11 personnel. The Colts seem to be obsessed with a Paris Campbell type player. Now, Paris Campbell hasn't been that player yet, but a player who excels in the slot, or someone that they can dump the ball off to and create some yards after the catch. And it ended up being Zach Pascal there. Who can be that Paris Campbell, Zach Pascal type player out of this wide receiver corps?
In all actuality, I see Devontae Smith being that guy, keep the chains moving. Yes, he's dynamic as far as, making big plays, but I see him more for a consistent player that Ertz can rely on in those crucial situations where he can be in the slot. He can run a little out. He can run a little, double move to get open and keep the chains moving. Number one receiver is more than just a guy that makes big plays. He's a guy that you have to account for on every play. And I believe Devontae Smith can be that number one receiver and keep the chains moving. There's nothing wrong with a guy that being consistent. And his best ability is to catch the rock, and that's what Devontae Smith does, very, very good. He can catch the rock, keep the chains moving. They're going to need him in that capacity. You're going to have the big play guys out there, like the John Hightowers or the Jalen Reagors, who can push the ball down the field. But you need a guy to be consistent, keep the chains moving, and I think Devontae Smith will be that guy.
Barrett, let me ask you a schedule question for the Eagles. They played Dallas in week number 3 down in Big D. But other than that, they don't have a divisional game until like week 12. 5 of their last 6 games are divisional games. Giants twice, Redskins twice, Cowboys once in the last month and a half of the season. And the whole rest of the schedule is early on, other than that one Dallas game early. We believe the NFC East will be mediocre again. That'd be a word I would use. You can pick and choose whichever one you want. It was putrid last year with Washington winning the division below 500. It's got a chance to be similar this year. I think all 4 teams have actually improved in certain aspects, but not all that much that, oh my God, how powerhouse the NFC East is. Is it a good thing that the Eagles have such a spread schedule, no divisional games early, all divisional games late, or is it a bad thing that the season may already be determined by the time they get into their rivalry section of their schedule at the very end of it?
Well, it means they're not out of it. That's definitely what you can, see when you look at their schedule, because the last couple of games, the last month, month and a half of the season, they'll still be in it because they haven't played their division games. They'll still be right there atop the division because they haven't played the rest of the schedule as far as these division games. And the division games, you win the division, you're in the playoffs. So it doesn't matter, really what you do as far as everything else. If you can win your division games, then you're still in the playoffs, man. And I think it's going to help this Eagles team as far as keeping them going, keeping them in the process of making sure that they stay in this thing, if things do get rocky during the season. My prediction is they're not going to be as rocky and as bad as what people are giving them credit for. I think they're going to be a little better than that, simply because, I heard, Jeff say earlier on, they've gotten better at a lot of positions. They've built some guys that can be great backups and, potential of being really good players. So, I have my glass is always half full as it pertains to the Eagles. I like what they have, and it's going to take them a little bit to mature. It takes 4 games to realize what you are as a team going into the season. After your 4th game, you understand what your identity is, and you're going to do the things that you're good at. It takes that 4th game until or if you're a run team, if I'm a passing team, if I'm a blitzing defense, if I'm a zone defense, I got to sit back, bend but don't break. All that stuff gets worked out in the first 4 games, and then you realize who you are. That's when they start going and getting a little more headway as far as what they are as a team. It could be bad, but it can also be good. So I'm anxious to see what type of team they're going to be. And, because of the division games at the end of the season, they will always be in it until they get to those games.
Barrett, one thing I love about what this team did this offseason was you added Ryan Kerrigan, you added Steven Nelson, you added Kerryon Johnson, veterans, to help the young guys out. And in Ray Rhodes' first year, the Eagles did do that. They added Mike Zordix, Bill Romanowski, Art Monk, Rod Carpenter, just guys like that. How important were those guys in that first training camp that basically set the stage for your 10-6 season?
Well, it helped me out a lot because I had guys like Riley McKenzie, Guy McIntyre on the offensive line. I was playing next to Ed Wetz, one of he wasn't a premier tight end, but he was one of those tight ends that could get the job done. I had wide receivers, just like you said, that they had brought in to really help and take it to that next level. When you have older players like that, especially players that have been in the league, the Kevin Turners, they brought in, those guys kind of solidified, an atmosphere. All right, it's going to be very competitive. We're going to be ready to play. You're going against William Fuller every day. They brought him in. Going against, Red Hall. Those are all guys that they brought in as free agents to really put you in a position to be competitive. You had Ricky Waters. They brought him in. So it was just more so, they tried to get a whole bunch of, good players together to at least make us competitive going into the season. And it actually worked out. We did make it into playoffs and, did all right, lost to Dallas in the second round. But, at least, they set a groundwork as far as being competitive on that team.
Barrett, last thing. During your career, how many different quarterbacks did you play in front of?
It was crazy, man. I had a carousel of quarterbacks, especially my first 2 years in the league. I had Randall Cunningham, I had Rodney Peete, I had both of the brothers. I mean the Detmer brothers. I played with both those guys. Even when I went to play with the Detroit Lions, I had 2 or 3 quarterbacks there. I had Gus Ferrata, Charlie Batch. It was always a quarterback carousel. It wasn't towards the end of the career, my career, that I got solidified with, one quarterback. And, I was with Green Bay. I had Brett Favre. Then I went to the Giants. I had Collins. And then when I got to the Steelers, it was Big Ben for the most part. So, it was a quarterback carousel my first couple of years, but after that, it kind of solidified. But, playing with the different quarterbacks, I learned, 3 or 4 different, coaching styles on how to play with these quarterbacks. The play was never over with Randall Cunningham, but the play would be over if the read wasn't there. Rodney Peete would just dump the ball or, get as much as he could as far as running it. But that's what Rodney Peete was. Then you had, the Detmer brothers, tremendously talented arms, but they just didn't have enough as far as, being big athletes, to do anything else with it. So I had a different styles of quarterback that I played with a lot during the first half of my career. But then after that, I had some really good quarterbacks who were just the men on those teams, franchise quarterbacks.
The reason why I ask, out of all of those QBs, and you just ran a nice little comprehensive list for us, which one would you compare Eitan Shander to most as the quarterback of your middle class? Is there one guy that when you sit down with Eitan every day, go, oh my God, he's just like this former quarterback I used to block for?
As far as personality, I can say personality, he's more like a Brett Favre, always joking, always got something to say. That's what Brett was, But as far as athletic talent, Shan didn't have a snowball's chance to do anything.
There you go. Just wanted to give you a chance to take a shot at Eitan. Barry, good stuff. Appreciate you coming on. Looking forward to watching on NBC, listening to you on the middle, and whenever we can get you over here, we're going to take you here on Birds 365. Thanks, bud.
Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, Barrett.
Our very own Barrett Brooks from the middle here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. Jeff Kerr in for Johnny Mac. So it's not a Mac and Mac attack today. It's a Jeff and Jody attack today here on Birds 365. We may be able to get a 9 o'clock second hour guest up. Could be someone live from Eagles training camp. We don't know yet. We're doing this on the fly. Kind of like the Eagles getting ready for the season on the fly with their first practice today. Come right back here with us on Birds 365.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.